I was 13 at the time of this occurrence, and had been reading creepypastas and true stories since I was 11. Bad habits. I live in Carroll Island, a place where you can find a good amount of forestry everywhere. This was located in Baltimore County, and I loved hearing Goatman stories about this place. I believe there is one in Carroll Island, but that's not the point. I loved this bit of forestry and had always when I was a child. I had lived in this house, still am, since I was 7 to 8. These forests, like any other town, always had some urban legend behind them. Some of these were mostly told by older kids who were just trying to scare the kids who would wander about the streets. The teens would always go into the woods to smoke pot, alcohol. I hated that, but it's how they got their kicks. So one day I was outside of my house, sometime near January on a full moon. Can't recall which month perfectly, just know it was a full moon. This was when some of the clown things were starting to die off and come back in April 2017. I never believed in them, and still don't. But that night I think I did. I walked inside my house with me, my brother and my friend who we'll call Kyle. Kyle was from Dominican Republic and had always believed in the paranormal, so we had a good bit in common. We walked into my brother's room, since it was the largest, and were watching Logan Paul's controversial Suicide Forest video. Once it was done, Kyle remembered it was a full moon, and that the clowns were out tonight. I called bullshit, and told him it was all hoaxes and insane people on highways. He doubled me by saying that, if I didn't believe, they'd get me. I laughed at his remark to that, and told him to stop believing all that stuff. That's when my brother, who I'll call Josh, sat up and said that I was just a pussy. I told him he was a jerk, and that it wasn't funny. We got into a conversation for a good 10 minutes when Kyle finally says, "Then why don't you go prove it?" I said, "Okay," and told them that I would be back. I know just the place to prove it. There was a little place down the road that was put there for a park, essentially. It wasn't funded. The only thing it had was a small walk bridge that was pretty nice. We called it the Duck Pond, but it actually was Seneca Creek. I'm giving all the location details to give you a better understanding of how scary this place would have been at night. I left the house, got onto my bike, and rode off 2 blocks away. At the entrance of the park is another set of woods that is private property for houses on the water and some abandoned houses inside. The entrance is easy to see, can't miss it, and personally, it looks pretty. As I was walking up to the entrance, I had noticed a foul odor. Keep in mind that this is wildlife, where things die and decompose right there. It wasn't helped with the stench of trash, reeking from the trash island. I was about to walk into the park, when I shit you not, something had spoken in a low, somewhat luring voice. "Hey there, kiddo. Why don't you come over here?" This is when I went into fucking panic mode. I am someone who isn't scared off so easily, but it was the thought that it could be someone out there. The unknown, which scared me. I turn towards the small patch of bushes near the entrance, and I see something crouched over deep in the bushes, facing me. I couldn't tell if it was a clown or demon. I didn't fucking care at this point. Even thinking about it is making me paranoid. As I was gonna man up and go see what it was, it speaks again. "That's right. Come over here." And I hear a sheathing of a blade. That's when I knew it was time to book it. I instantly wailed out in fright, almost pissing myself, and crashed into that bike. I say if I hadn't been riding for many years and built up muscle to power out of there, I would have been done. I floor it back to my house. At this point my body is in complete hysteria, and Kyle said that once I opened the door, I was not comprehensible. It took me a minute to calm down and realize I shouldn't be so scared. I explained to Kyle and Josh what had just happened, and we agreed to go back tomorrow and fuck up whoever was there. We never did, and I never go there at night. Creepy man in the fucking bushes. Whoever you are, if you're still out there, let's not meet again. My aunt had recently gotten divorced and had just bought a new house in a new city. She originally lived in a big city in Tennessee and moved to a little quiet town. She invited us to come stay. My mom, dad, older sister and I. We're from Indiana. So we plan a trip to go stay. My cousins are just a bit younger than I am. I remember arriving and thinking that it was kind of a creepy little town that had an eerie feel to it. There was no one around, very few cars, and no kids playing in the neighborhood. It's the first night there, and we all get settled in to go to sleep. My parents take my aunt's room. My aunt sleeps in one of my cousin's room, I sleep in one of my cousin's room with her, and my sister sleeps in the living room with my other cousin. It's probably around 2 in the morning and my cousin and I are still up talking. We start hearing like a knock coming from the outside wall. We think it's just the wind considering their backyard is fenced in. I then mentioned to her how I felt like I was being watched, and she commented that she did too, so we assume it's just my sister and cousin spying on us. We're all between 10 and 16 years old. A little while, probably 30 minutes or so later, I hear my sister from the living room quietly calling for my aunt in a shaky voice. Although I'm the younger sister, I'm also the more protective sister, so I go running to the living room to see what's wrong, and she points to the back door. I look over and we can clearly see the doorknob and door shaking violently. I run and get my aunt, and as soon as she turned on the lights, the door stopped moving. We go get my parents, and my dad goes outside and checks the whole house and finds scratches on the back door around the handle. It's creepy to think that this person was probably watching my cousin and I for a while before he decided to try to break it. I'm just thankful he didn't actually get in. We're also not sure how he got in the fence. It's a decently tall wooden fence with no gate. Needless to say, I didn't sleep the rest of that trip. I don't think anyone did. My farm has been in my family's name since 1798. It was built on an Indian burial ground. I know that's always what people say, but I'm 100% serious. All throughout my childhood, I've heard stories passed down from my ancestors. Stories like our livestock disappearing, names being called from the tree line. You know, the normal ghost stories you get told by the campfire. I always thought they were just that. Stories, but something that happened yesterday changed my mind completely. While I was trying to sleep watching Seinfeld, like I always do, the dog started to go crazy, which is pretty normal, but then I started to hear whimpers as soon as a scream started. It was like no scream I have ever heard. It was high-pitched and low-pitched at the same time. I immediately grabbed my 12 gauge and ran outside as fast as I could, but then everything just went still. No screaming, no barking, hell, even the cicadas stopped chirping. It was the most terrifying quiet I have ever experienced. I turned on my phone light and started scanning the perimeter of the dog pen when I noticed whispering from the tree line. It was a weird whisper, like it was beckoning me to come closer, but it was in no language I could understand. As any sane person would do, I immediately ran inside and locked the doors, and double-checked that the windows were locked. As soon as I got inside, all the noises started again, the cicadas, the dogs, everything was normal. As I went upstairs, I had a terrible feeling of being watched, and I just couldn't sleep. I haven't slept since then, and I'm terrified of what may happen tonight. Someone please tell me what's going on.